Bob and Erin, we're sitting here today because of mothers and plumbers. If it weren't for local 370 plumbers, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. We probably wouldn't be working together to help East Chicago and other areas. And I've talked a lot about the politics and the false narratives and the contamination. Start the
conversation off on a bad note of politics, please.
When it comes to water testing, there's no place for politics. And Erin, I want to start by asking you a question. We started giving these detailed testing reports out to mothers and people in communities, and we were criticized that don't give detailed testing reports out because the mothers in the communities are incapable of understanding. They're incapable of understanding the test reports.
So not
what
true.
do you think about that?
That's so not true. I mean, that's just the thing, to go and underestimate these mothers who have all the passion and all the gumption and all the fortitude in the world. When they get together, I just stand out of the way because they're going to take over. And that is part of the problem. Again, going back to, everything that began with me is the lack of trust that people have because they're not getting information, because we want to hide it from them, because you think they don't understand it. They understand it extremely well. I've always said, you don't have to be a PhD. You don't have to have a degree in psychology or be a politician or be a lawyer or be a doctor or be a scientist to understand that something's gone wrong in the water, that there's a poison in it, that my child is sick, and that I can't stand up and learn and fight for my own rights. They do, they will, never, ever underestimate them. I love this. For me, it feels like I've waited my entire career for this moment, for the people. And it's usually mothers to wake up and take charge of their backyard, their health, their children's health and welfare, and not wait for some Superman out of the government to fly in and save the day for them. They're gonna pick up the torch and they're gonna start covering their own ass, if you will. Don't underestimate them. I couldn't love a project more or be more proud of these women than I am watching them emerge from Flint.
Yeah, and as they're educated on this, they've given more detailed press conferences
they're going to know more
than
than
some
we.
of the quote scientists.
Absolutely, because see, it's in their backyard. This is their fight, and they make it their business to know what this means. They'll come out being plumbers, they'll come out being scientists, and probably politicians, and running for office in their own backyard. So listen, kudos to them. I'm their greatest fan and cheerleader, and I will march with them and run alongside of them, and I will tell them, you keep going.
I find in building credibility, if you say, I don't know, but let me, what I like about the team that we've built with Bob, with the toxicology, I don't know, but let me get you the answer.
Absolutely.
Versus those that are trying to cover something up. I tend to build more credibility when I say, I don't know, but let me test it, let me get you some answers. And there seems to be a fear from responsible parties and even elected officials. They don't want to say they don't know.
Well, yeah, I think we're all afraid of that. I did that in Hinckley, and I'm not the attorney, and they'd ask me legal questions. Instead of trying to bluff, I'd go, well, hell, I don't know, but I'll call and find out. And I think that's something, again, egos get in the way, especially for some of these, leaders that hide stuff like this. For me and my work in Hinckley and everything I've done the past 22 years, the root cause is deception. And we oftentimes don't want to say we don't know because, I don't know, we hear all the time, you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, you're not a scientist, therefore what do you know? So I think that individuals and oftentimes mothers will pull back and they don't want to say anything. And I just think that they've taken the bull by the horns again, if you will. And you don't have to be any of that to be a mom, to be a human, and to see what's going on in your own backyard and to say something about it.
Well, I think we're at the beginning of a movement because in my connection, I connected with the plumbers by accident. I was, I go to all these disasters, jump lines, not scared of guns pointed at me, but I did not want to open someone's water heater because I wasn't licensed. And that's how this all started. And then with Harold and Ben, we started, all this is going on. I used my experience in the Navajo Nation where, why don't we test the unimpacted soil from that mining spill and the impacted? So I applied logic and said, well, everyone's estimating the state of the waters in their home. So we started testing near the meter and the water heater. And to me, that seems like such simple logic, but they don't want to know that, if you're paying for this water,
goes out the door
and we're starting to, that state of the water that is entering the home is very, very important. And that's what we're seeing with this bacteria. And now we're seeing, what appears to be.
It will be rampant. Look at what you're learning. Here's a scary scenario. We have to realize it isn't just Hinckley where I begin. It isn't just Flint where this begins. It's everywhere. We've got 110 other Flints. Like you said, we're dealing with East Chicago, Indiana. So if you take all of those and you're finding this in association with Flint and other lead places, it's everywhere. That's scary.
And one of the things since I've been working with you guys is that we did a radio show. Bob's called in on a few, and one of the things that has really been that I've loved is connecting mothers from North Carolina with that coal ash spill. I did some other, you've been there, and we've both been there, but I connected the mothers from North Carolina, a few of them that then with Melissa Mays, and then mothers in Florida. And one of the things I want to do, I've been talking to the Young Turks about, is having a town hall where you get these mothers from all these communities. When you get these mothers talking, I can just sit down and they're educated on these reports. These mothers come together from all these communities, and that's the way we're going to get change.
Absolutely, because they make it their business. They make it their business because that's their health and their child's health. And there's a children's march coming up in DC that I'm going to be a part of that's showing 50%. We have the highest infant mortality rate in any industrialized nation, and we're the United States of America. And over 50% of our children in this country have some form of chronic disease. You got to be kidding me.
That's
so these
unacceptable.
mothers networking can be an amazing force.
And
They'll get the job done.
they will, because they will not be ignored.
They won't.
No, they'll hold people accountable. And
They
that's what they're
will
afraid
not
of.
let you ignore
That's
them.
what they're afraid of,
And
is
they should be.
accountability. Yeah. I mean, it's something, what's the harm? You know, we get Erin and I, through social media, emails, all different ways, communications on an hourly basis. There are hundreds of boil water notices across the country every day. Okay?
Somebody from Flint called me and said Detroit just got a boil water notice since I've been out here.
Yeah, the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I don't think that's a really small town. Was on a 72-hour do not drink order this month. Okay, and their hospital is now closed for Legionella. You know, what the hell's going on in this country? We're not talking about backwoods towns off the grid. We're talking about major cities in this country.
Los Angeles, right in our own backyard. What South Central's been getting bottled
No,
water.
they're not talking
That's on the
about
schedule, by the way. I'm doing
Gardena
a
gets black water.
campaign
It's
with
the color
plumbers.
of the coffee.
I'm going to test Los Angeles with plumbers too. With all of us that have been attacked in this whole science thing, so the definition of science is acquiring knowledge in a systematic way. So these detailed third-party reports, I think, is acquiring knowledge in a systematic way and arming mothers with the information.
Oh, we get thrown under the bus every day. You'll come out just fine.
I remember the first phone call we had, you said, "Welcome to the club." Now that they've attacked you, you know you're probably right. And
They're still standing.
they create all these false narratives and they don't want to talk. Again, science, acquiring knowledge. They don't want to talk about acquiring the knowledge in the systematic way with a third-party lab. They hate this.
Of course they do.
The best old, publicly talked about statement about that is there's lies, damn lies, and statistics.
When we started working together and Bob taught me all those great things about water heaters and how to look at things, we started that discussion about, and they started testing water heaters behind us and chloroform and all that. So they went out with taxpayer-funded money and they tested 2 homes in Flint, a commercial building, and a hotel outside of Flint. And they declared Flint just like any other city. So now I've been testing with plumbers in Florida and all that, and what if I told you that, we're getting a non-detects for chloroform in some distribution systems, non-detects for bacteria. So that's another point with statistics. 2 homes in Flint, what are there, 35,000 in a commercial building and a hotel outside, and they declare everything safe, and that gets into what I call false narratives. The ex-mainstream media people that become public relations people immediately go into action. They launch the attacks and they develop a false narrative. But I see great hope with the millennials and since you've been doing this a lot longer than me. And we were Facebook Live in East Chicago doing these very reports 2 weeks ago. We had 100,000 people asking good questions, and it was the first time I walked through a whole house and showed water testing.
That's so cool.
And it's unbelievable
Because,
they
don't know, and people are clamoring and starving for this type of information, and you're giving them a tool, and that becomes empowerment, and it's amazing.
And then
for
what happens is
Young Turks and for all of this to be happening.
What do you think we can do better to bring people together and to affect change?
Well, I think we're on a really good start. I think it's something that I've been waiting for me for 22 years. I mean, even going back to my days in Hinckley is see, I think people are visual. Why this is so important, and this is what I handed out in Hinckley, is it gives them something they can read, they can ask questions, it's tangible, it's a tool. Having the town halls, listening, and letting them become hands-on. It really is, if you talk about Flint, that's their community. They love it. That's their backyard. That's their children. That's their health. Let them in on the fight. And we tend to, not us, but whether it be agencies or politicians or a company, because they don't want something to come out, suppress that. And I think that they're really surging against the suppression. And to just let it happen. The women are going to keep going. I just don't think there's anything at this point we're going to be able to do to stop it. And that's a good thing.
That's great. It's like a good nuclear bomb chain
That's a good
reaction.
thing.
You can't undo this. That's what we want.
We've got community, consumers, moms that are frustrated with the water quality in their community, and they all went down and signed up for the community college class on water treatment. They're in the class right now. They're basically sending Erin and I, email photographs of water treatment plant tours.
They're excited.
They're going crazy.
They are going crazy. In Hannibal, with the chloramines, and chloramines is a huge issue, and that's probably a conversation for another day, and we've touched upon it. But in Hannibal, Missouri, it's a group of grandmas. I'm a grandma now, and they're like, hell no, I'm not going to put up with this. So they ran for city council, and 2 of them won. So we're going to go out there on the 19th and 20th. They've got a
That's
referendum.
fantastic.
It looks like they're going to vote chloramines out because look what they did. See. They got on that city council. They took charge of their own backyard. And we encourage people to do that. Have you ever gone to a city council meeting? Oh my God, they just sit there and hear themselves talk.
Have you been to one in Flint? It's an experience.
It's ridiculous.
It's an experience.
That's the exception to the rule.
But did you see what happened in Flint? How many people filed out of Flint to run for city
50
council?
people are running for city council.
50.
Good for them.
See?
Yeah, I said, that's
there
fantastic.
you go.
That's
That's
fantastic.
the kind of stuff we like to see. That's what's happening. America's waking up.
And all
It's
those
awesome.
millions of dollars in Flint, Bob and I were talking last night. Where did it go? Where, there's still not, and Bob offered.
There's
Can I get
so
your
much
piece?
mismanagement of the monies.
And
I'm still waiting for
I always
mine.
say, and so Bob offers free advice to the mayor, and I keep saying on every radio and interview I do is like, Bob Bowcock, 37 years of experience, has offered free advice. Why don't you take him up?
Oh my gosh. Well, we got called out to Flint. I was out of the country. I got it to Bob. He wrote a whole protocol before you know Flint as it is today. What'd they tell you?
Yeah.
What'd the city say to you?
See ya.
See
yeah.
ya. See
Thanks.
you. Don't want to be a
Well,
thanks.
actually,
Not going to take your.
I didn't even get a thank you. So.
Did you just get a bird as you were walking out the door?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
They don't
but
want to take the advice.
They did pay. Veolia was the engineering firm that they paid about 3 weeks after I gave my report, and while my report wasn't as lengthy and full of fluff and bullshit, you could lay them side by side, and the basic recommendations were identical. So they took some of the Veolia recommendations, but just discarded what we had said. So, and we probably wouldn't be here today talking about Flint had they followed some of those basic protocol changes. It's not that difficult. Unfortunately, it's somewhat becoming a social justice issue. Erin mentioned Hannibal, Missouri. It's a middle class community. We picked it because it's Hannibal, Missouri. It's the hometown of Mark Twain.
Tulsa. I mean, the
Tulsa,
list goes
Oklahoma,
on and
yeah.
on. But Hannibal sticks out in my mind with the women and the movements
And the city
that
council.
they're starting to make.
Yeah, but where I mean that it's a social justice issue is that community is really concerned about the cost of actually cleaning their water up. Because they're concerned about the affordability of the water if they actually, and it's because the water industrial complex has basically convinced them that to clean the water properly is going to cost you millions of dollars. But then you go to a more upper class community, Charlottesville, Virginia, hometown of the University of Virginia. And we went and spoke there about 4.5 years ago. And the community listened. There was an open and lively debate at City Council. I was against the addition of ammonia to the drinking water system, and the City Council put it to referendum or vote in the community. And the headline in the newspaper in Charlottesville, Virginia said, "A community as sophisticated as Charlottesville has no place for chloramination." So they were willing, because they could afford it, to say, clean my water properly. Well, not all communities can or think they can afford to clean their water properly. And frankly, I have a problem living in a country where if you're poor you deserve dirty water, and if you're rich, you can afford to clean it up, that's bullshit. And that's what's occurring in this country. And frankly, the sad and pathetic part of that is that the consulting engineering firms and the water utility managers are actually convincing the community it's okay. You can't afford to have us clean the water properly. So we're going to add ammonia because it's cheap, easy, and quick, and you won't even notice. Everything will be okay.
What do you think of the new governor of Indiana? He declared East Chicago a disaster. He went there and met with the people, and the people on the ground I'm talking to, give credit where credit is due? That governor appears to be listening and wanting to do something. So maybe
I hope
it's
a trend that continues. And I don't know, he did exactly what you need to do. I mean, you just can't rebut the evidence. I mean, it's staring you in the face. The people are staring you in the face. The agencies. He called it like he saw it. Good for you. And it's a shame that it took this long to get to this place, to find out what really happened out there and all the suffering and damage that's done to a generation or two. But it's a start, and this is where we need to be. And transparency, and we talk about transparency and we're still not transparent, and being able to stand up there and take accountability and call it what it is, and that's where we'll change. So that's good. And it's really important to understand that we do unite, and that Flint isn't just Flint. We're all Flints. Hinckley isn't just Hinckley. We're all Hinkleys. And I said before, and I'm going to say again, I've waited my entire career for this moment, and I think it's finally here. There's a paradigm shift. We're a part of it. It's history making, it's changing, it's betterment for the future, the environment, the millennials get it, the perfect storm. And I couldn't be more excited. Well, you can tell, we make science difficult and it is attainable, and there's other ways to teach it. And the standard of conformance that we've lived in for so long it isn't the way we're going to learn going forward. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Living proof of it is here right now. And when the individuals begin to believe and become empowered, there's just nothing that's going to stop them. All these years, they may have stopped themselves and thought that science and medicine was untouchable to them. Oh, it is so within their reach. We've seen that, whether it be the political fights, the lawsuits, the blame, the agencies, we could do that all day long. That's getting us nowhere. This gets us somewhere. The mothers, the plumbers, the transparency, standing up to that, being the voice, that gets us somewhere. We don't have to blame anything. The fight's got to stop. For me, it's always been, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, black or white, Republican or Democrat. This is an issue that affects us all. And I expect us all to come together and be transparent and unite for the betterment of every single person in the United States of America as we move forward. Period.